Hey, Legal Vice is here, welcoming you to another spoiler-filled, unprofessional, unedited one-take review. This time of episode 5 of Netflix's series 1899. All right, we're going somewhere with this series. Now we're starting to make some ground. Now we're starting to get into weird yet comprehensible ground. It starts out with Mara, the main character. She wakes up in a hospital gown. She's on a mountain. And there's a large bell chiming in the background. She runs up this hill, and there's a grave sitting there with a wooden cross on it. And written on the wooden cross is the words, "Wake up." She's got restraint marks all over her wrists. And then she hears, "Wake up," which is happening every episode. Everybody has a dream. Everybody hears "wake up," and then they wake up on the ship. So she hears "wake up," and she wakes up, and as she's waking up, she hears she's being drugged down a hallway, strapped to a chair. They jam a needle in her arm. She's screaming, I'm not crazy. What have you done with my brother? He was on the Prometheus." Then she, after the jab in the neck, she wakes up in the bed, in her cabin, on the Kerberos. Now, then it cuts over to the bar. Sorry, she didn't wake up in her bed. She woke up in the bar. Unedited. She wakes up on the floor of the bar where we left her at the end of the last episode after the boy resurrected and walked out of the closet. Well, the boy is locked back in the closet. They've put him there because they don't trust him. The captain, he's demanded to know who she is. He just keeps yelling, "Who are you? Why was your name on the guest list?" And then it cuts over to France, the crewman who led the mutiny, to try to take the Kerberos over and go back to England, or go to continue on to America. And he's saying, we're still in charge of this ship. But then some of the Danish people start worrying. Well, what happens when we get to America? They execute people who steal ships and who mutiny. And so that's when crazy Danish religious lady, she decides that maybe we should just kill all the good guys. We should just kill everyone that's not part of the mutiny. She's clearly nuts. And then the two Danish kids, which are the brother and sister of the girl that was the first person to die. Kester is the boy. I can't remember the girl's name off the top of my head, but they start saying, "Oh, mom's, we're afraid of mom." But then he mentions that the girl killed someone before. And the girl takes a shotgun. The boy says, "Where are you going?" She says, "Do something that should have been done a long time ago." And then it cuts to this weird, mysterious electric panel that made the ship dimension shift or in one of the earlier episodes, or time shift, or whatever the hell it did. It cuts to the electric panel, and it starts to come alive again. The lights start working. Then it cuts to the two French guy, Lucien and his wife. The two French people, Lucien and his wife, they're in their cabin. And I guess she's been told everything, that he's not really a French Foreign Legion officer, that apparently that they just stole this guy's valor, and he's still dying, apparently. So she knows everything's a lie, and he wasn't an officer. So things get really awkward between them. Then it cuts back to all the people from Denmark. The Danish girl, she runs into the bar where all the good guys are waiting, and says that she's going to stop her mom. She wants to help him stop her mom. Then the boy starts banging on the inside of the cupboard. Then if things start to get weird again, Mara, she runs over to the cupboard to let the boy out. Everybody in the bar has rifles pointed at her. Then she stands in front of the cupboard. There's a bang from the bullet. There's a bang from one of the guns. And then we go into Matrix bullet time, where the bullet is slowly coming out of the gun. The crazy, weird, spooky guy, Daniel Solis, he leaps in front of the bullet. And all of this is happening in slow time. And then suddenly time stops. The boy gets out of the cabinet. Well, and Mara and the boy are the only two people that are still moving. Everyone else is frozen in time. So it seems like the boy stopped time. She kind of freaks out about it. He takes her by the hand and they walk out of the bar, leaving everybody frozen in time. As soon as they get outside, then everything goes back to real time. But to everybody inside the bar, the boy and Mara have just disappeared. They're just disappeared in an instant. And then alarms start to sound. this big kind of it's kind of a siren, kind of like a purge siren starts ringing through the ship. And then they go back to the good guys. The good guys, they decide they need to take back the ship from the mutineers. They've got to get it under control. And as soon as they make the decision to get the ship under control, the siren stops. But then like this ticking starts, kind of like a ticking of a clock. It starts clicking in time like that. And then everybody suddenly just drops their weapons. They look all zombified and they just start marching like robots out the door. Everybody all over the ship just starts marching, except for the main characters. The main characters haven't started marching. They're just watching everybody else march, wondering what's going on. And I mean, even the Chinese mom, everybody in the cabins, all the other passengers just start walking. Then it cuts to Krester, the Danish kid. They're down like in Denmark land, down there in third class, and it shows that he's tapping on a wooden cross in time to the ticking of whatever this is. And he stands up. He's like the only main character, apparently, that is being affected by all of this. So he gets up and starts walking as well. Everybody marches onto deck, and then they march towards the ship's rail, and then they all just jump. The crew just starts jumping over the side of the railing like a bunch of lemmings. The passengers start jumping over like a bunch of lemmings. Krester, the Danish boy, that was the brother of the first Danish girl to die, and apparently this has this love affair thing going on with the Portuguese guy. He just jumps. Krester's gone. Krester goes over the rails. And Mara everybody meets up in the hallway, and Mara's like, what's happening? She's asking the boy, what's happening? What's going on? And the boy writes on a piece of paper and says, they're listening. Then he grabs her, pulls her ear really close, and says, I can't tell you. You have to ask the creator. Then it cuts to the CO, the chief officer of the ship. He's punching more buttons into his little secret panel-y remote control thing he's got. Then it goes back to the mutineers and the crew, the surviving crew. They're all freaking out, still wondering, why are people jumping over the railing? So the boy and Mara, they go into this little tiled room. If you'll remember, if you've watched it, under her bed, there's this mysterious secret tiled room with black tiles. So they go down here and they're sitting in this tiled room. And then the boy says, don't be afraid. And he puts one of these stupid little green bugs that unlock doors for somehow, some way. He puts this little green bug down on the floor, and well, there you go. He crawls after the bug, and then it turns out he's opened a door, and from this black tiled room, there's this tunnel that leads somewhere. So Mara starts crawling through the tunnel. And where does the tunnel lead? The tunnel leads outside to a mountain. And there's a little two-dimensional door they came out of, just sort of floating above the landscape. But they're outside on this mountain. It's the mountain where she was at the beginning of the episode when she was told to wake up. So she's out there back on this mountain. And there's the grave at the top of the hill, but it doesn't say wake up on it this time. But out in the distance, there's a big kind of spooky-looking giant mansion of a house. And she starts walking towards it. Then Daniel Salas, he comes into Mara's room, sees they're not there. He looks at this open hole under the bed that goes into this tiled room, and he just yells, fuck! And he jumps in there. He jumps in the tunnel, but the tunnel's closed, so he can't follow it. But then he pulls out his little slider remote control thing, manipulates that a little bit. Then the door opens. He crawls through the tunnel after them. And then he runs up the hill to the boy, and he says, you shouldn't have done that. He tells this to the boy. You shouldn't have done that. He knows we're here now. And the boy said, well, we've never made it this far. Maybe it will work this time. So there's something going on. Now we've got this deal. There is this reality. Is this another dimension? Is this part of it? But we're still going somewhere. This has happened before. This is all being repeated. And they're trying to get to an objective. They're trying to get to a certain point. But this is as far as they've ever gotten. So now we're starting to get into something other than just being on a ship and having weird stuff happen. Well, then Daniel tells the boy, you stay here. I have to go stop them from sinking the ship. And he heads back. Then it cuts back to the black guy, Jerome. He crashes into the French guy's room. And if you remember from the last episode, they were together and they were somewhere in the French Foreign Legion. And Jerome double-crossed it. Jerome was double-crossed by Lucien, the French guy. It got locked up in a little cage of a room, and Lucien took the French Foreign Legion's guy's uniform and left him there. So he runs in, he ties up Lucien and the woman, and they're kind of freaking out. He's got him at gunpoint, but he says he's trying to save them. He's not there to hurt them. And the crew and all the other mutineers that are still alive, they start tying themselves up to beds and things so they can't move. One of the crewmen goes to the bridge, and he's trying to send a telegraph message, but the telegraph isn't working. Instead, the telegraph starts spitting stuff out in Morse code. He translates the Morse code into English, and it says, sink ship. Well, Daniel, he's back on the ship now. He goes down to this big, gigantic circuit board control panel thing, and he's attaching wires to it. He's trying to do something to it, and he pulls out a modern-day flashlight, like a good mag light, which tells me he's not from the ship. The ship seems to be the illusion, not the other way around. He's got the mag light, and one of the crewmen comes up, and they have a little bit of a discussion, but then the crewman decides to smash him with a shovel, and Daniel says, turn it off, or it starts again. More ominous words about things happening again. Then Daniel hits the button. I mean, the guy's trying to choke him out, and Daniel hits a button on the remote control thing he has, and the crewman drops. The crewman drops dead. Then it cuts to Mara. Mara's inside this building that she walked to from the gravesite, and there's ghostly voices going on. And there's a room in there with the same number as her cabin. Her cabin number was 1101. This room in this house or whatever it is has room 1101 as well. So she goes inside room 1101, and it's this huge room with one chair in the middle, which is where she's been at the beginning of the series, and then a few minutes ago when she was drugged back and a needle was jammed in her neck. There's just one chair, one medical chair in the middle of this large open tiled room. So she walks up there, and then there's a voice behind her, and a guy comes in, and it turns out it's her dad, it's her father. And he says, where is it? He tells this to the woman, where is it? Where did you hide it? And she just says, Father, where's my brother? What have you done to him? What's going on here? She wants to know what's going. She's not really freaked out. She's seeing her father. She just wants to know where her brother is and what's happened. And then suddenly two guys grab her from behind. They strap her in a chair. They jam a needle in her neck. There's darkness. She hears wake up. And then she wakes up in bed in her cabin. Apparently something's happening again, whatever this cycle is. But she runs to find the captain. As soon as she finds the captain, she's relieved to find the captain. Now the captain's more freaked out than ever. Not only was she on the passenger list for the Prometheus, she just magically disappeared in front of them in the bar with the boy. So he grabs her, slams her up against the wall, and demands answers. How she disappeared, what's going on. And she says it was the boy in the pyramid that did this. And then they go back to her cabin, and then she starts to confess, and this is where we have a huge plot development at this point. They go back to the cabin, and she says, there's some things I'm not telling you. My name isn't Mara Franklin. My name's Mara Singleton. My father is the Singleton that owns the shipping company. So her father is the guy that owns the Prometheus and the guy that owns the Kerberos. Now she's just deciding to tell everybody this. And she says she thinks this whole thing is an experiment, and he's studying passengers. He said he was all into brain things and mental situations. So she thinks that maybe all of this is just him concocting some sort of big experiment on people in the crew. She mentioned the envelopes that he had, and she said everybody, basically everyone has these envelopes. She said, I have the same kind of envelope you have. And she thinks all of these letters are being sent by her brother, not just hers. She thinks her brother sent all of these letters to people as some sort of a puzzle or a clue for them to put together. And then there's a little green bug on the desk. She catches the green bug, and then they go down in the tunnel in the captain's quarters. And the captain follows her down follows her down into the little tiled room, and then she drops the bug on the floor, and the bug goes under the wall and opens up the door, because these little bugs are like little door unlockers, little pervs, and they're in a forest. And his daughter is singing, and the captain's house is in the distance. Who's that house? That's my house. And then it cuts to the crew. The chief officer, he comes in where the telegraph is, and finds the guy that received the sink ship message sort of sitting on the floor in kind of a little bit of a panic. And then the guy says, "Look, we got a message. It says to sink the ship." So the chief officer takes the sink ship message, goes, "Oh, wow." Then he starts messing around with the remote control, and the guy that got the message drops dead. The crewman just drops. Boom. And then he drags the crewman off. Then Mara goes back to Mara. Mara thinks all of this is a dream. And then the captain, he confesses something as well. He confesses that the passenger list for the Prometheus also lists him as the captain of the Prometheus. Then it cuts back to Daniel. Daniel's recovered from being whacked in the head with a shovel. And he stops he manipulates the control panel, and the ticking, the tick, 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 tick that was leading everybody to their death stops. So there's only a few crew members left alive, a few passengers left alive on the deck of the ship. And Mrs. Wilson, who apparently was also affected by this ticking, the one that was running the brothel and trying to pimp out the Chinese girl, she was right at the ship's railing. Then she comes to her senses, and then she just turns around and walks back onto the ship. Now the chief officer tells the captain to sink the ship. I wrote that in my notes. I don't think that's right. I don't think the chief officer told the captain to say sink the ship. I don't know what that means. But then they get to, while they're sitting, it was told Daniel, I think it was Daniel, I can't remember. This is why we have these amazing, wonderful, spoiler-filled, unprofessional, unedited, one-take reviews. I literally can't remember what he said, but I think if I recall correctly, the chief officer said, "Oh, we got the message to sink the ship." And Daniel, I think it was Daniel, said, I don't think they're talking about the Prometheus. I think they're saying we have to sink this ship." And then they start the end credits music starts. It's Wizard by Black Sabbath, which is really cool. So the end credits songs are all just ace songs, fantastic songs. They're literally all some of my favorite songs. But then while Wizard by Black Sabbath is playing, it cuts to the ship owner's office to Mara's father's office. Mara's father sitting in a chair. Then someone comes in and says, "We've received an alert from Project Kerberos." And he hands him a coded message. The father looks at the coded message and says, "He doesn't have much time. Tell him to bring me the boy." Then everything weird happens. He looks out the window. He goes to these big windows. He draws the curtains back, and he looks out the window. And it looks like it was hard to see and it was hard to tell, but it looks like it was an ocean scene with a sailboat or something frozen in time. But anyway, the waves weren't moving. Whatever was out there on the ocean, everything was frozen in time. So maybe the father is trying to rescue everybody. Maybe the father is trapped in time and using these as experiments to try to figure out how to unfreeze time. I don't know. But clearly there's some shenanigans going on with Dad. There's 3 more episodes to go. We'll just have to see where it goes. Stand by for coming up on Monday of next week is episode 6. Until then, I hope you enjoy your legal vices.